Welcome to an special edition of Retumba's streaming. Today is with me Eddie Levitsky from the ANCHORET. I hope that's the correct pronunciation, Eddie.
We will never know.
That's one of the enigmas of this band.
It could be
So
whatever you want.
in Spanish or Mexican, it will be the ANCHORET.
Okay.
So just
I think
so you know.
I think it's a French word anyway. So anchoret, anchoré. It's there's
Oh,
you can also say anchorite.
ANCHORET. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, it occurs to me that we have um, uh, a word for your band here in the Tumba.
What's the
The
word?
the anchoas,
The interest?
the anchoas. It's just a show of appreciation. We it's a a nickname out of care.
That's what matters. Thank you very much.
I can give credit to that to Ivan, which also, if you're seeing this screen, the picture of the top the thumbnail is made by Ivan.
It's
Uh,
amazing. It's so
yeah,
good. It captures everything. I'm honored. It's everything that the Anchorhead is about. It's got the space thing. It's got a faceless person in there. It's got the musical note for. Thank you, Ivan. It's an amazing picture.
except for the flag, as you previously noticed.
Oh, I noticed the flag on the right for the USA, but I mean we have James Knorrell, who's from he's from the USA, but also on the left side there's something else as a flag, which I'm not sure what it is. So it fits. I think it fits. We're international, so it works.
For anyone out there that is listening, I invited Eddie here to share with us his top 10 best albums of the year.
That's it. I think what happened is then, you put me on the spot. You asked me to come and you said, bring me 10 best albums. And I've been changing the list every 2 minutes until we've met. I'm pretty sure if you'd ask me to do it again today, they might be different albums too. So to be fair, what I decided to do is put in all the albums that I've kept coming back, listening to, showing my friends as well. So they are there's so much great music that came out this year,
Hmm.
and 10 albums is definitely not enough to showcase the whole year.
Yeah.
But I tried my best.
Yeah, and usually here in the Tumba do a year of end of the year list. We did a collective list trying to display the most challenging, refreshing, innovating stuff, but also the individual list. By heart, what we like the most. And well, one of the reasons that I put you on the spot, as you mentioned, is that because I noticed that you keep track and you like to be up to date with the events of exciting new names. I see that you are a musician that likes to be discovering new stuff, and that's not very usual. And I have some contradictions. Well, I find some contradictions with new artists that, of course, want people to listen to their music, but don't listen to people's new music, right? The kind
Yeah,
of
I can see that. Yeah.
yeah. And well, I am seeing that a lot of us agree that the Anchorage. Can you repeat the French pronunciation?
Oh, let's just call it the Anchorette. That's what we
Okay,
call it too.
okay, it's set. Um, it's been showcasing, doing a lot of buzz, a lot of noise in the best of the year releases so far. So I think it's only fair that you now can give that back to the community and share your some of your insight and what you appreciate the most this year. Correct?
Oh, it's beautiful, the way you put it. But I'm also a little anxious because all the bands that I don't mention, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean I did not like them. You still have that pressure. So honestly, to all you content creators and you top listers and all the people have supported us and I've met throughout this amazing journey this year, thank you. And the work that you do is amazing. It's hard. You have to make decisions. You have to be honest with yourself. So a little shout out to Tumba. A little shout out to every single outlet that helped us out. You really did an amazing job, and I can see just how hard it really is.
Well, thank you for that showing of appreciation. So, what we are about to see is a top 10 with 2 spots tied in. But you previously sent Ison, Hinayana, Monica Roger Big Band, lots of big names that could easily be one of the best releases for anyone, you know?
Yeah, all of these bands here, they could be on a different day, could be a #1 spot and a top 10 spot. I just keep coming to these albums and get like extremely excited. And this year, just I'm gonna throw this out there because I need to be honest with myself and all the viewers and listeners. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I am not a prog historian. I'm not a music historian at all. I just listen to things that people recommend. Sometimes I go out of my way and discover things, but I listen, I like, and usually the conversation ends there. And when I come back to the albums, they grow on me, and then you get curious, you understand the lyrics better, you understand who wrote them, who sang them. So I will just talk about music that I like. I'm going to try to explain why I like it, but I can't really tell you who plays there and what the acumen is, what's who's in what. And well, I'm going to do my best. So I'm just throwing this out there before people throw rocks at me.
Well, welcome to the club. We here in the Tomba neither do know anything about music. We aren't experts, just enthusiasts. Probably I'm not the best person to talk to you in your language about music, but here I am. And well, thank you for accepting my invitation. As we can see, on your 10th spot is Helga with Wrapped in Mist, which, by the way,
Yes.
released a little under a month ago. It's surprising that it's there in your list,
To be fair, with a top 10 album, usually, it's albums that have stood the stress of all the other albums and all the other releases. It's an album that you've listened throughout the whole year, but that's not fair for all the new releases that are just releasing now, that you might have not spent enough time with them. So I really wanted Helga somewhere in my list because actually it was recommended by Retumba. I saw it in my news feed, I saw it on my socials, I saw that was interesting, and I heard the single before, and the single I enjoyed, but I didn't think it was metal. I didn't think it was heavy. I didn't think it was, I thought it was a lot more atmospheric, maybe folk oriented. And the album has that, but it's you cannot not call this heavy metal, black metal. And it has experimental items. It's got a great atmosphere. It's got great vocals, and it deserves a spot here because it's one of the bands that I've been showing a lot to friends from different styles of music, and it's I really enjoyed it, and it's something that I also put on during a weekend, the whole holidays. Me and my partner want some background music, I always return to this one. I think it's a beautiful, it transports you. It's what I think I've noticed is that I really enjoy music that has contrast, right? The most obvious example, maybe, I don't know, Opeth, it goes from extremely heavy to really calm in the space of a couple of riffs, I guess, in a minute, in a couple of seconds. But it makes sense. There's a beautiful contrast, but there's also a beautiful transition to it. It's not just throwing it out there, moving on, having a different riff, going into another one, just having another riff. So Helga does this magnificently. It's a beautiful album. I highly recommend it if you like a little bit of folk in your black metal. I really enjoyed it.
or a little bit of black in your folk metal, a little bit of rock-ish.
Blackened folk metal.
Correctly, exactly. Yeah. Oh, okay. So you mentioned Opeth, which it's another thing that I see popping out when the Anchoret is being reviewed or mentioned about, you know, the opet like sensibilities. And to be fair, Helga and the Anchoret are my two favorite debuts of the year in
Oh
the
wow.
prog orbit, and I think both showcase. If we talk about opet like sensibilities from the Anchoret or Helga, the way that each band or project make it their own is just to enhance why or what I think is unique about both bands, both sounds. Each is very in their own direction. Um, and yeah, I agree with you. It's a very soft listen, a lot of contrast. And what I like about it is that you can enjoy it in the background. It's very gentle music, but if you put attention, you can have a great time trying to dissect all the nuances and the soft eclecticism. And that's also like a second experience for this kind of music. I
Yeah, I agree.
I relate to Helga because I like the contortionist language. I don't know if you like that album.
I the con but no, I'm not sure. The Contortionist?
Yeah, the contortionist language, an album from like 8 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe.
I'm not a prog historian. This is where it's
Okay.
pretty obvious.
No, okay.
But I've heard of the Contortionist. I
Yeah.
haven't dabbled in the music, so I'm not gonna say anything.
Well,
Uh,
if you haven't listened to that album and you like Helga, Raped in Mist, please, I strongly suggest you to try it whenever you can, okay?
I will absolutely. But you know what Helga reminded me of from straight from the bat? It reminded me a lot of Agalok.
Mm,
You know,
okay.
that sensibility. It's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit maybe. Well, it sounds. I think it's in the production that it's a little bit heavier. It sounds different, but it reminded me of Agalok. You know, uh, the Mantle. I don't know if you know that album, but it's very famous album. It's got probably some of the most beautiful soundscapes in metal. It's a very, and you know, it's always something I'm looking for.
And well, honestly, it's a fresh voice. Is it sounds like nothing out that is out there, especially and specifically this year. So for me and also for you, I would assume is one of the best releases if you want to discover something new, right?
Yeah, I
Perfect,
highly agree. It could be a number one. All the albums here again, I think they can be anywhere on any given day.
perfect.
I have a spot that is shared for the ninth spot
Yeah, yeah.
because you will notice that I've done a couple of shared spots throughout because I just couldn't bring
Decide.
myself to get 10 albums and that's it, you know, cut off a limb, no more arm, no, you know, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Um, and all the albums that I've put together on the same spot scratch the same itch in some way.
Mm,
Okay.
okay.
I grew up with black metal, right? And I grew up with like, you know, the really depressive, suicidal black metal type of things. But I always look forward for that like silver lining in black metal. It has to be very dramatic, very cinematic. It has to be heavy. It has to sound like it's the end of the world.
Mm,
But there's always a little bit of hope.
yeah.
And it's a beautiful contrast. I have shivers just talking about it because you know that's what created it. And Miserere Luminis and Gris and Sombre Forêt also, you know, they're from around where I live, so I was lucky enough to even catch them live. I know that they don't do many shows; they do maybe one or two per album release. Um, and it was a small show in a small bar, and it sounded or it looked like huge, you know, and there's no production. It's just the whole charisma. You know, they just brought it. There's three guitar players live, one bassist, drummer, and they used to do the Sigur Rós, Jimmy Page, you know, violin, are playing violin on the guitar thing to create big huge soundscapes. And I don't know, it's there's not it those both of those albums, and I'll talk about Agriculture too. Both of those albums have this like beautiful hope in it. It's sad, it's dramatic, but there's a little bit of hope,
Mm.
and it should be consumed as a whole album. It's very hard for me to tell you which song I like or which song. Every time I come back to this album, they force me to listen to the whole album from start to finish. And to me, that's powerful. So they definitely deserve to be on top 10 spot.
I like
Um,
your description, although I wouldn't necessarily pair them together, because
mhm.
one of them, Miserere Luminis, is more about the anticipation of what come next, building up the emotion, with the melodies. And Agriculture is more about being straight to the punch. Although what I like about it is the use of the tremolo. It's very
Yes.
very savage. Um, but on the other hand, Miserere Luminis is I can't quite describe the experience because honestly, it's just I feel it in my chest. The how it fluctuates me just to the experience of I don't know how to describe it honestly, but yeah, it's really an special record, and I it almost sounds like the cover, incandescent, very fire-esque quality to the music, something burning maybe.
Yes, I agree. I think the art direction is amazing. Uh, and it's it's a contrast. I mean, Agriculture has the photography,
Hmm.
very low light photography. It looks a little bit something out of MySpace years too,
Yeah.
but that's the whole purpose of what they did. It looks like it's timeless. It looks like
Mm.
it fits that genre. And Agriculture, to me, it's also a little bit rougher. I think it's a little bit more violent, as you said. I agree, but at the same time, it has that little bit of contrast that
Yeah.
I mentioned.
Yeah.
It had that contrast. It had like a good, there's even, I think, a song in there that's maybe 2 minutes long. That's like an acoustic song. It has that folk soul that I think that's what they were going for as well with a name like Agriculture. There's a
Yeah.
folk soul in this that's just a beautiful. It elevates this sort of black metal, this album, to something original to me, something I haven't heard. Maybe I haven't heard everything for sure, but to me, when I listened to Agriculture, I was going to sleep and I just wanted, noise. I just wanted music to listen to, and I couldn't sleep until the album finished.
Wow.
And I came back to it in the morning, So
I had the opportunity to do a review commentary about these two records. And Agriculture actually was with Lucy, and I will try to remember what I say is that you have to be a great uh, to do great songs to keep the listener entertained when it's full on blast. So
yes.
a little bit of contrast every now and then adds to the expectation of the listener, so you don't get bored and you don't get like keep expecting something else. And that's what I find about this record to be special about, that even at that level of rawness and um delivered fast,
Mm-hmm.
there's also something that is saying continuously, to you.
It's beautiful, and it doesn't have a lot of songs. It's just long enough. And
Yeah.
also, is it me or does it have saxophone?
Oh,
So I think it has saxophone. I know it's a while. I know, and I've never listened to so much music in my entire life. By the way, this year has been crazy, and I overly obsess on like one or two or three albums throughout the year. But this
mm,
year, I just wanted to experience what's out there, right? So I really went all out, and these are albums I will study more closely and return to. But I know that there's a saxophone solo here, and I know that it's extremely violent,
yeah.
and you know me. If it has a saxophone in there, it's a 10 on 10, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Automatically.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Funny enough, this is also your first year that you put out some music. Maybe there's some correlation there with you trying to discover new and exciting music, while also people was discovering you, maybe.
You know what? If I've analyzed it. I felt like I was analyzing a little bit. There was a time before the ANCHORET, before, I changed my life, moved away, before my whole episode with isolation, I really wanted to be on top of things, discover music, be excited by music. I always enjoyed, power metal, then black metal, then, jump from things. And then I had recommendations from other albums, other prog elements from my father, who always brings me music to listen to, shares music. But when I was feeling down, you want the comfort of your friends.
Mm,
You want the comfort of your friends, and then that comfort became something else, because I was looking to create something that gives an homage to, as a thanks to all those albums I listened to and loved. So I became overly in, overly focused on those albums, on those elements, what makes them work. And I'm pretty sure at this point I could probably write a PhD on Supertramp's Crime of the Century, and albums like that, because I can just overly analyze and I know everyone about everyone. But once the album released, and this year has been fantastic journey and extremely unexpected in every way, I needed a break from that. I needed to look at what's out there. I needed to connect. I wanted that sense of community, and I wanted to learn what's out there. What can I learn from everyone else, in some way or another. And these things will definitely have an effect on me on future output, 100%. And I feel so glad and happy to start discovering and have the time to listen to all these albums. That's why I'm annoying everyone online and commenting on every album and commenting on all. I'm really enjoying myself, and it was a long time coming.
Actually, 2 days ago, no, yeah, 2 days ago, I spoke with this new Belgian band called Aldrich, and well, they were saying that they are not necessarily thinking of making new and refreshing music, just what comes out of them. But similar to you and your music, I think the fact that you are curious enough or interested in new music, somehow that transpires into your work, unconsciously or not. And maybe what I'm trying to say is that it's important for artists that to also evolve as a listener, right? To not be stuck in the past or with the same names, with the same kind of music, just to also um, contemplate other avenues in your art, your work, your craft.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. You have to throw yourself out there and take a chance. And I see this all the time, and this is where I wasn't expecting the ANCHORET to blow up and the way that it did. And I definitely didn't expect that people that listen to prog and metal, they're usually very hard. They're elitist movements often, not
Mm,
everyone, of course not. But I mean, how often do you see the prog people talk about Genesis, and
right.
then come back and talk about, I don't know, Pink Floyd, and they don't want to move on. They don't want to see how those bands inspired what's coming out today, right?
Mm,
They
yeah.
and then I used to be in a black metal band, and it doesn't matter if you release 10 albums, everyone is going to say I prefer your first album. That's the black metal experience, and I remember we released our first album and we had that as a comment. I preferred their first album. I don't know which one, but that's the whole experience.
Wow. Well, that's how we are. I want to include myself because there's a couple of bands that I think their first record is their best. Not all the time, especially if we talk about Slade, for example, which I think their newest record is one of their best.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my honorable mentions, I hope.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
it, it
course.
it was twice I noticed your list.
Yeah,
So
it's a stream of consciousness. I put them again, I put them again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Funny that you talk about prog because here in the Tumba, we have the some people think we are haters of prog, because we do a lot of criticism on a lot of artists that are, the most influential these days. But with the Anchoret, we kind of prove that we are not. We are lovers. But the thing is that we are craving something, fresh and out of trends. And this is what the Anchoret showcases, I think.
Well, thank you. And I think it's a surprise because I read a couple of reviews and some reviews say that we are not fresh. We're looking back as an homage to things that have been done in the previous year, and that we should probably focus more on pushing the boundaries of music. And you're going to see that my list has a lot of albums that I feel this year have pushed the boundaries of what music can be.
Yeah.
And I love that. But on the other hand, I agree. I definitely agree. But that was the whole soul of the ANCHORET, and it happened that it got released as an anti-movement. It instead of pushing the boundaries of musicianship and playing guitar faster, better, drum beats faster and better. And I don't have that skill. If I had, maybe, but I don't know how to play like that. So we were more of an exercise in restraint. Somebody said that, and I agree. We try to create soundscapes where you can breathe a little bit more for each instrument. Showcase each instrument,
Uh,
and that ended up being original because it's something old, forgotten, but in a new, going against the movement. That's what's done
yeah.
today.
Yeah, like through a new lens, maybe. Let me share a story with you, a piece of information briefly. So I interviewed Jamie from Airside a couple of months ago, maybe less than that, and I there's a part where we recommend some music to each other, and I suggest him the Anchoret and Helga, two of two of those two names, because those are my obsession, honestly. Um, and
Thank you.
a couple of days ago, he wrote me back about that he was doing some playlist on my recommendations, and what he likes to do is he asks for information about what people see in the recommendations, what they like about what's the best song to discover them, and maybe the best song that somehow encompass the music, the orientation. And maybe he was expecting a two lines text, but I ended up writing a full letter to him, about my reasons. But I will spare you that. But in short, I say to him that the Anchoret is like a love letter to prog, like a collage of all of past, the past, the new, and maybe the future, through a new lens, through a new refreshed orientation. Maybe let's wait and see.
I'm stealing that for next interviews, by the way.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah, and as we have jokingly talk about, maybe the next album is blackened, enhanced, that part in your music.
The next album will definitely be blackened, enhanced, but it's hard because you're on the rope between two genres, and that's a little space to be on.
Mm.
And then you have to be honest to yourself, but sometimes you write music and it goes into one direction, and you have to bring it to a different direction. You have to feel it. You have to, you know, make it interesting. And one thing I gotta say is that a lot of these albums on my list have incredible, expansive, slow moving, atmospheric parts. And I'm always too scared to write those because, I always have, what if people get bored?
Mm.
I feel like my ADHD is playing tricks on me often. And it's incredible to me to know that, people have the courage and the willingness and the insurance, of writing something that is expansive, is long, and they know people will listen to it and enjoy it. And it taught me a lot. And I look up to these bands when I write my own stuff too, by the way.
Well,
I really like that.
if that was on your mind, not boring people, definitely paid off because it shows. There is not 1 second or moment that this album is boring.
Yeah. My
Okay.
next one is Too Much Pressure. It's I didn't have no one knew the ANCHORET existed when I released it. I think that people had no expectations for the first album that we released, so they were open for pretty much everything. They didn't know what the soundscape was or where we were going with all of this. And I think that the next one, unfortunately, it's going to be a much more difficult album to do, because there are so many expectations to manage. Sure, the fans, but also yourself.
Mm.
And the first album also came out of something that was completely honest for me. It was a way out. It was talking about things that I was living through. It was something that was pushing me to write. It all began with loneliness. That was it really did begin there, but I'm not there now. I even made a couple of statements, even on Twitter, that I feel like I'm part of a community and it's incredible. And I'm so much far away from where I was, to the point where even I'm having a hard time talking about this now if I have an interview, because I don't remember how I felt. That's how far removed I am at this
Mm.
point. So thank you, the universe. Thank you for the community. Thank you for, people as yourself, Alfonso, supported us and helped us. But the next album is going to be a hard battle to do musically, but it's also has to be honest. And that's
Yeah.
where it's going to be hard to do, because I have a lot of things to say, but do I feel them passionately and deeply enough right now at this point?
Yeah.
Uh, um, so I've tried writing. I have a couple of songs that are written, but I don't feel them, to be honest. I feel that they are good songs, just not honest enough. So I'm looking for that moment. I'm looking to live that little example, that little a little situation that will get me really inspired before I even think about releasing the next album.
Yeah. To
So seeing albums like Enslaved released what, 10 albums now, 11, 12 live
15
albums.
maybe.
My God, seeing people, bands like Enslaved who release 15 albums and they still keep it fresh and interesting and honest and surprising. That, to me, it's incredible. And saying that, I feel bad that they're not on my top 10, but they definitely deserve to be mentioned.
They are definitely in mine, so no worries there.
Okay. Thank you
um,
for for the assist.
well, yeah, so for one, it all began with loneliness, but the next one, um, maybe it continues through pressure and expectation, but it cannot be only about that. You need to identify the new thing that you want or need to say. At
I
this,
think I think we identified when you said it's gonna be blackened, right? So
yeah,
it's
it's
gonna be
all there.
blackened. It's blackened desperation and
Yeah,
uh, but I'm sorry I cut you off, but yeah, we for everyone who doesn't know, and probably no one does, we were playing around with the blackened idea that you can put everything in through a blackened lens and it makes it better.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking at the next, the ANCHORET is going to be a more blackened version.
For
of
ex
the ANCHORET.
for example, at this point, Enslaved is not full on black. It's more
No.
blackened prog, and they are better because of it. You know, they open their sound to new possibilities, and I think that's what is exciting about these days with Enslaved and such bands that are able to find something new for the future.
So we move on to the next number 8 spot.
Ooh, okay.
This is a fun one to talk about. So
Mm,
there are a couple of bands that I return to with the same that scratch the same itch for me. Flesh Vessel, Horrendous is definitely another one, you know.
mm,
Um both weird, both pushing the limits of what music is can be. But I honestly had if I had to choose between you know, all of those, I would really go with Flesh Vessel because I
mm,
feel like it has this. It's looking through death metal in a way where there's no boundaries, there's no limitations to anything. It's also incredibly well produced. It's really original. And you know, last time I chatted about Flesh Vessel, I said that to me, it's like if Ennio Morricone had a death metal band, right? A metal band.
mm.
And it has this like feeling of the old west of spaghetti western, you know. It has this cinematic approach to it, and somebody automatically told to me that, oh well, it's like Wayfarer. Yes and no. Wayfarer also has that approach to the old west, but they go through the lens of a maybe a honky tonk piano, you know, more of that. This is orchestral. This is Ennio Morricone's lens. And honestly, if I had to sum this up, that's the way that I would present this to anyone, and that's the way I presented it to my friends. I said, "This is Ennio Morricone meets death metal, and listen to this whole journey. It has everything in it. It goes everywhere. It has so many contrasts per minute that it's just impressive as a whole."
Yeah,
Yeah,
in terms of I don't know, the use of instrumentation and surprises there is the Anchoret and beyond at this point. Because there's a lot to digest when listening to this band. And the great thing is that it works. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like yeah, forced. It just breeds confidence. It breeds organically, and it's not easy to find music like that these days. Yeah, for me, it's one of the best prog releases of the year. Dead, Black, whatever. For me, it's just prog and just that. But also beautiful cover made by a friend of mine, Carlos
oh
Agras, a Mexican.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's an amazing everything on this package. I'm excited to get my album. Actually, I managed to get one, right on time because I think they are running out. It just shows how, you know, incredibly successful this release has been. And
And it's something really complex to talk about. I think we I had the opportunity to discuss it with a friend of mine on youth and this channel,
yeah,
and it's one of those records that it's about the excitement of listening to these kind of things and knowing that it exists and there are people willing to do this kind of things, or maybe at the face or at the possibilities of being disliked because of because black metal or death metal is a very kind of peculiar niche of listeners, you know, that are not necessarily accepting of
yeah.
new things. And yeah, this is also from I Void Hunger Record, which is a label that I hugely admire, and this is one of their best this year, definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say also it fits the I Void Hanger you know, style and feeling. They really are looking at things that are challenging, you know, and I think it's a beautiful thing that it exists. I think it's a beautiful thing that, you know, albums like that get made and push boundaries. And it's definitely, as a musician first, you know, it's always something that I come back to. And every time I find something else. To me, this is the new Pink Floyd. This is the
Wow.
music that is pushing the boundaries. You people used to be, from what I understand, from what my father said when Pink Floyd came out, it's things that were it made such a splash because you could come back to the album, you could listen to Dark Side of the Moon on a different day and listen to it in a different way, hear different things, the production, that Alan Parsons did on it. And we don't have that much similarities now with like more streamlined music, but we definitely have it here with Flesh Vessel. uh and
Uh,
others, even Horrendous. It's just, people just say it's weird, it's great.
yeah.
Sure, but thank God it exists. Thank God it's pushing the boundaries.
I haven't made that connection with Wayfarer before, but yeah, I agree with that assessment. And maybe it's, as you mentioned, Ennio Morricone, maybe it has that outsider perspective, but inspired by those kind of imagery and symbolism. Although, for me, this is more about the contrast with beauty and the grotesque and the macabre, which I think the artist captured quite well in this album artwork.
A beautiful album art, and it's also very very progressive, not to put your name anywhere. I wish I had the courage of not putting my name on my cover because I like it so much. So I really applaud this. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Okay. So your next spot actually was a surprise for me because I haven't, well, I know the band, but I wasn't aware of this release. And well, please explain it for me.
Well, actually, how about you talk to me about it? Did you get to a chance to listen to it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It has this French groove, right?
I'm not even sure. Like I said, I don't know who they are. I've discovered this band basically. I did a podcast with the Metalheads podcast, and
Okay.
John, who was on it, recommended this album. In one of the best of the month
Okay.
situation, and I checked it out, and you know, you talked about things being compared to Opeth, but that's
Mm,
crazy. It's like it says so much.
yeah.
Opeth, that's how big of a band that is. That's how much of an impact it really had. It brought their own influences and made such a plethora of different sounds. When you compare something to Opeth, some people even like roll their eyes and disregard it because everything is compared to Opeth now, even us, right?
Mm,
um and but I will compare this one to Opeth, and it scratches that itch to me. It
okay.
has a little bit more of a mainstream, well, it has a little bit more of a song basis structure writing. It's not as experimental as Flesh Vessel or other albums in the same vein. What it does have, however, it has great structured songs with a lot of ebb and flow. So heavy light, and it also has those amazing Opeth chord progressions. It has those Opeth diminished sounds in there as well that I really liked. And it honestly, I was looking for that sound, and I think I found it with this album this year. It scratched my itch. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for you know a music that you want to remember why you like metal in the first place. That is a great album to listen to.
Uh, well, my experience is quite new with this release because only a few days ago. Um, but I can say it's one of those albums that is flawless, in the how is manufactured from production to choosing of melodies and dynamics. I can't see any mistakes made here. Something that I can criticize is this kind of record, I think. But one record that scratched the itch for me in a similar way, and I will send you the name in the chat, just so maybe you can disagree or not, is this one. And I actually wrote it because uh, it's like this kind of uh, black metal, fading sound of black metal prog. um, Swedish, but more heavier maybe. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a heavier music kind of guy, you know. And but again, this is something that I can't deny anything of this record because it's just flawless and is for you to sit there and just receive something beautiful made and crafted, you know, with um a level of detail that is appreciated.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand, and I think it was the right record at the right time for me. And one, I kept coming back because, you know, you're probably more you're surrounded by people who enjoy music, push their limits, but not it's very hard to recommend something like Flesh Vessel to someone who's looking for something new, something fun, and this is the one that I recommended, I think, the most this year to
Okay.
people, more than, let's say, Sarmat, that is
You
right.
you read my mind right there.
That's it. But I love Sarmat and I loved listening to it every single time. Again, this list, they definitely deserve a place here, but this is albums that I kept coming back to, and like I said, Flesh Vessel could have been horrendous. It could have been, I'm looking at my list here of bands, it could have been I don't know, Afterbirth, as well. But Stormhaven could have also been Dawn of Ouroboros, who I really enjoyed.
Oh
uh
yeah,
it could have been yeah,
it's been
maybe
a
even
great year.
Henget. It's been a crazy year, and Kriegsgrav also, it's like black metal, no nonsense, but amazing guitar works with great solos, so
Which one?
anyway,
Which one?
uh
So I I didn't.
Kriegsgrav.
Okay, I need to discover that.
Oh
It
yes,
doesn't
yes,
ring a
they
bell.
did. I think they did a thing called Fires in the Fall, which I
Okay.
almost felt Fires in the Distance, who also released an amazing album this year that could also probably be matched with Stormhaven, but they have a little bit more of a bigger cinematic, post metal sound, I guess. People are probably gonna throw rocks at me because I called it post metal, but I'm not a historian. I apologize again for everyone.
Okay, just because I don't have much to add about Stormhaven, although I like it and I see why you put it here. Uh, the album I recommended to Eddie is Har,
Yeah,
Haar, and Ouroboros. Or Ouroboros. I don't know how it is the right
Ouroboros.
pronunciations.
Yeah,
Yeah. But okay, Chris Graff.
Kriegsgraf.
Oh,
You've seen it a little bit. Yeah, I highly
I've seen
recommend
it.
it. And the members are really nice people. So, encourage them if you can. I think even today at this recording, their label is making some albums, including Kriegsgraf, free on their label page. So
Mm,
if hopefully a couple of people snagged it, because they're definitely on a lot of people's top 10 lists, and well deserved.
yeah. Okay, now Seven Impale Summit. I see it in your sixth.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
uh,
So Retumba is known for not enjoying prog metal, right? So I could have made this list a little bit worse for you and made you pissed off on every single choice, but this is music that I really enjoy, and
I appreciate the honest picks.
it's an honest pick for sure. Seven Impale is one of the, I think it's one of the albums that when I started publishing about the ANCHORET, when I started releasing it, is the one I fell on. And I was like, this is amazing. This already exists. And why didn't I not discover this before? And it's one album that throughout the whole year I kept coming back to,
Okay.
because how can I put this? This is the same feeling that you get with King Crimson. And I
Mm,
don't know how familiar you are with King Crimson, but saying that something sounds like King Crimson is exactly like saying something sounds like Opeth.
right.
It doesn't mean anything because it's so much and so big and so huge. But Seven Impale, to me, it's got if you want to hear a saxophone that's truly heavy
Mm,
and songs that are truly heavy, but recorded with almost no distortion, and yet they are extremely heavy
mm,
and meaningful, this is the album to kind of open the world to the King Crimsons and going back in time and listening to Van der Graaf Generator or uh, a couple of classics, but they put it through a modern lens in a modern production, a little bit more accessible in that case, sometimes. They have fun playing it. It's yeah, I really enjoyed this album a lot, and I come back to it for ideas for the future, for how you can
wow.
use instruments outside of what they were supposed to do. There's something impressive about using a saxophone in a context that the saxophone wasn't invented for, or
Mm.
a trumpet, or I think it's incredible, and it's not music that it's easy to recommend. I can guarantee you that you will not like it the first 20 times you will listen to it, but when it clicks, it clicks. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what you say about it. How do you feel about it?
It's one of those records or sounds that you have to invest some time to
Yes.
fully digest it. I appreciate the honest speak, and let me make a defense for myself here because I do comment this album with a friend of mine, Seven Impaled. And I do like it, and I do appreciate what they did here, and I do see why you choose it because I mean, if you listen to the Anchoret, it has that itch of the several ages of rock from classic to being very I don't know the right word, but yeah, you have to invest some time. The thing for me is, and I say this on my comment, and I will well, what I say is that it hasn't made an impact of for me since their
Mhm.
first record. And I know that you mentioned something like that previously in this conversation, but City of the Sun, and I mean, you have to understand it's about time and circumstances, the context in which you encounter or discover some sound. And for me, 9 years ago, I discovered Seven Impaled, and I it blew my mind because it's this kind of sound 9 years ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, I had nothing to compare. Sure, I can go back and see the similarities and the references, but now it is in this format, in this form, and it hasn't made that quite big of impression in me since even their second record. I've reviewed it and I said, it's great that the band is doing these things. And this new album, I again agreed, but I don't see the band, becoming weirder, which is something that I expected to be because the premise of their sound is, being more adventurous. And since I didn't find it this time, I was a little bit, disappointed. But
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
this is my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's all about, we're not we're big philosophers. We just say what we like and we don't. But
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't know about Seven Impale before Summit. When I wanted to hear that sound, I used to go to my old albums. But I listened to this, and I listened to City of the Sun, and I listened to their second album, which I don't remember the name. But this one's much heavier. So I feel like as a band, they've uh, they went into a direction where it's closer to what I like in music. I
Mm.
like music that sounds heavy without being heavy because your distortion is at 11.
Hmm.
I like that the songs sound heavy because that's the way that they're written. That's the way that they're shown. And to me, it's an impressive feat. There's only a couple of bands that I know that do that. Well, obviously, King Crimson. When you listen to it, you don't know. People who listen to like Genesis would listen to King Crimson would be like, "This is really heavy stuff. It's a big
Right.
contrast."
Right.
And this is what Seven Impale kind of embraces that aspect of it, and I think it's incredible.
I oftentimes I think of what a prog guy from the 70s will think about the prog made these days. Will like it, will appreciate it. I don't know. But yeah, this band is very unique in its own approach, and that is something to appreciate and congratulate them for. And as you mentioned, it's a huge feat.
I think so, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to of Golden Verse
By the way,
by
uh,
Sermon.
but sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not denying your picks. Just I offering my honest take on them. I just for people out there. Oh, this is I don't know what to say. Sorry.
No, not at all. It's I think it's just an honest conversation, and
Yeah.
defending music is part of the fun, and you like stuff, you share with me. I don't like stuff. Um I think what's important though is to have an open mind for everything, and that you certainly have. So there's not no no one's gonna throw stones at you today, 100%.
Thank you. I'm
um
I'm not trying to be rude with Eddie. I consider him my friend, my from another country and all. But yeah. And now back with sermon. Okay, I have nothing but compliments for this record.
Well, I'll let you talk about this one because I talk too much with Summit, but go ahead. I know you've reviewed it, but I don't speak Spanish yet. So yeah, give me your review.
Oof. Okay. So again, well, similar to with the Anchoret, this is a band or sound that it encompasses or digests many influences from other to kind of 2 decades ago, Catatonia, maybe Tool, maybe nowadays Soen, alternative approach, and it has the catchiness of Michael Jackson, maybe very
Yeah.
hidden there, or has the Weekend, it's catchy, but it's also complex, and it's just an earworm. It's to have fun, but also again to kind of dissect the all the nuances. It functions on two levels, and that's something that I appreciate. That is not empty of ideas or complexity hidden or maybe not, you know, but also can be quite enjoyable. And okay, so I'm a broke guy at heart, honestly. I consumed it all in my life span. Well, not all, but the necessary ones. And nowadays, I find myself craving for fresh takes of maybe what has been done or not. And sermon for me offers that kind of sound that I don't find in Soin maybe or Catatonia or Tool. Maybe a closer comparison would be Carnival, in terms of being a very calm, soft sound, but it can explode and just be in good taste all the time. And well, this is my take of this band
So
and
what you're saying
album.
is that it's periférico.
Not quite,
Uh,
not quite.
I really enjoy Sermon because it brings me back to my love in music. It has that same scratches the same itch, but on a heavier side
Mm,
that Elton John does. It's just great songs, man. It's
mm,
just great music. It has it has the Tool element, which I love. It has the amazing sound to it. It's got probably, yeah, it sounds like $1 million production on it.
mm,
um it has probably the best graphic design of the
mm.
year, super minimalist. It's got this whole universe that it offers, and that's what happens when you listen to albums like Tool, right? You listen to an album, but it's not just music, it's this whole universe situation.
Yeah.
And Sermon to me this year, that was definitely a big revelation. I know that they've released other albums, and I haven't had the courage of going to previous albums because I just keep returning to this one. Um, and I'm looking forward to see where it's gonna go uh, from here, but I really enjoy the sound. I like the fact that it's mid tempo. I like that it's a contrast to all the heavier stuff. You know, you listen to Sarmat, you listen to this after. It
Yeah.
can kind of rebalance your scales a little
And
bit.
also what a closer track, unexpected
Yes.
in the arc of the album.
Yes, it's just it's but see, it works. Like the whole album works. Like the whole intro. If you share this music, you know that feeling when you get you're excited about a song, you sit down with your friend, you put it on. He has to wait for two
Wait,
minutes,
yeah,
and it's you can't recommend stuff like that, but it's a payoff. The whole
yeah,
album is a whole payoff to the last track, and it's beautiful
yeah.
songwriting. Yeah.
I have to add something that so Sermon debuted 4 years ago with the album. I don't know the name. Maybe it was Drift. I don't know. Sorry, but the impression on me was very much like the Anchoret. When I found about Sermon, like, okay, this is what I needed to hear. This is what the scene or the landscape of this kind of music needs. Something that breathes with personality and authenticity, even though you can say a lot of things about the references and or influences, but at the end it's about being authentic, and finding new
Oh yeah.
approach, new angles. And okay, so that record was for me their debut, and with this time they proved to be one of those not what hit wonders or what one hit album bands. They made it for a second occasion, and I appreciate that very much, honestly.
It's a
So
beautiful time. It's in the middle because it's in between the really normal listening experience that you
yeah,
have and in
yeah,
between the very experimental.
yeah, exactly,
So that's
exactly.
why I put it in 5, because I feel like it should be in the middle of that whole world of your top 10.
Mm.
It's grounding it, and I think that's why I put it there.
And honestly, just to because I have to, I need to say so. Um, when I listen to sermon, even this all these months further, it's like I'm discovering something new within the realms of what I know and like. But there's something, I don't know. It's just a fresh take for me. And honestly, I it's not often, too often that you find something like that these days.
Yeah, and as a musician or someone that's trying to make music on my own, uh yeah, this is something that shocks me. I want to know who the graphic designer is. I want to know what the mask is about. I want to know who made it. I want to know who produced it. I want to know what the label is. It's not
Okay.
just, oh, I listened to a great album. I want to know more about it, and this one really did this for me.
Okay, so briefly a commercial here. I have an interview with him, which him is his artistic name, uh, and you can find a lot about the mask, the enigma, the reasons, the inspiration, all of about that. It's a great talk for all of you to want to invest more time discovering what ceremony is about.
So for my next pick, I've got 2 picks. So I cheated here a little bit too. I've picked both from Willow Tip Records, and it feels like family, and it feels a little bit like cheating, but you have to hand it to them. Willow Tip Records are truly forward thinking with their music, and they've released some amazing albums this year.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm paid for advertising because I really love these albums, and I'm just incredibly lucky to be part of the roster of the family, that is Willow Tip. So
Fair is fair.
yeah. One album I think it's been a little while that I haven't been this excited for a release. Um, I was extremely excited hearing the single as soon as it came out from Rannoch, Conflagrations, and I loved everything about this. I like the artwork. It's very punchy. It's very unique. It's still death metal, and to me, it's just enough prog elements in there. It's very accessible death metal. It's like your first step into more complicated music. That should be it.
Mm, mm,
The If I had a song of the year list, the Ranox Threnody of a Dying Star, the last track, which is
oh,
like 11 minutes, I think, or even more.
yeah.
To me, that's one of the songs that, especially, there's such a beautiful ending to it and it fades out. But if it would have went on for 20 more minutes, I would be fine with it. It's
Mm,
just a powerful to me song because it has everything that I like about music in general. It's heavy, in metal, right? It's heavy, it's straight to the point. It got enough surprises. It's got the contrast. It's got the variations and transitions in between songs. You can listen to the songs on their own, but you can also listen to the album. And knowing a little bit of the history from Rannoch is that they put so much care and effort into everything they say. I think
mm,
on a previous album, they released the album when it was they chose the date of release to coincide with the poem that they had there, who's what's the poet's name? I am so bad. I apologize. um, Let me search this online.
yeah, yeah.
Um, he's the guy who did the Red Dragon,
Mm.
artist, English artist. I think it's the Great Red Dragon painting by William Blake.
William Blake. Yeah.
Of course, William Blake. So I apologize to everyone that I forgot William Blake. That's the one. It's like there's three artists in metal that everyone uses, and William Blake is one of them. But they released it on his birthday. They had a poem for him, like a snippet in their album, and I know that people think that it's too they go into too much far detail and they want to sound too brainy, but I love that. I like looking at the cover of album and trying to understand more, going into it, knowing that an artist didn't just randomly put things together and has things to say. I like that. And so honestly, Rannoch deserves your time and attention because they've put time and attention into everything they did.
Mm,
So I don't know if you had the chance to listen to Rannoch.
yeah. And first of all, thank you for sharing this information because I feel like I can go back and really appreciate some stuff about this album. Um, this is also an album that I comment a few months ago. So I will try to not repeat myself here, just pinpoint the necessary stuff. Okay, I think Eddie, if you spend enough time talking with me about music, you will see or perceive that what I look for or search in music, you know, and this has something to do because I manage this blog and I do comments and I like to spend time in a work that offers something for me to talk about,
Yeah.
and Ranoch, I'm gonna say it in Mexican, Ranoch. They offer something for me, something new to tackle with. I think it's this kind of sound that exists between spaces. You can see to the right and to the left what kind of sounds are heavier or lighter. But I think just said it best is full of things but intelligent. Very very smart craft. It doesn't feel like it overdoes sometimes, although sometimes I feel like I would ask them that to go beyond that line. But at the same time, I appreciate that the band is self-restrained and it's about making a good song, and if they find it, they leave it like that. They not don't try to push that. And sometimes it's nice or important to find that spot in your own compositions, and I think this band managed to do that here. Yes, the last song is amazing, one of my best. If I have to make a playlist of the best songs for me, it's either that or Conflagrations, because well, is that the first single they released? Maybe yes. I don't know.
Yes, I think
Okay,
so.
yeah, because um again, what I search for in music is something that can be that something can stand out as fresh or unique, and this band does that. I find a little bit of Gojira and Meshuga, but they are kind of in the middle. And I also appreciate that the band has evolved from their past albums. So yeah, there's all that to say about this album and
Yeah,
band.
and their first single was the Daguerreotype. I had to check it
Ah,
out because
okay.
yeah, that was it.
So that's one of my favorite songs on the album.
Well, there you go. It's just a great album. I consume this album as a whole thing, but I also have no qualms to share this with someone, just one song. Hey, listen to this. They will go and look for more. And that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful statement as a musician, you know. They could do a single with every single track and it will be okay.
Yeah.
They've got this opeth vibe to it too, which means absolutely nothing, as we said, but they really do have that opeth vibe to it that I really enjoyed.
Uh, uh, Actually, these two releases, your fourth picks, are on our best death metals of the year. So yeah,
Well deserved, well
well
deserved.
deserved.
And Afterbirth scratches pretty much the same itch, but a little bit of a different. It was a little bit more I am not savvy with death metal. I haven't it's a genre that I like things in, but I don't know the history of, and I don't know the difference between what's caveman track or why I should listen to death more, or I know things that I enjoy, but I'm not sure if Cynic is death metal or not, or is it adjacent. There's a lot of questioning I got, but it's when I do hear something that's interesting and someone calls it death metal or grindcore or brutal whatever, okay, no problem, then I like that. But I feel like these two bands are really unique. Afterbirth is incredibly unique to me because the more I dig, the more I listen, the more I dug into this band, the more I just enjoyed it. First of all, I think it's been a long time coming for this album. From what I understand, the cover is amazing by Alex Ekman Law. Yeah, it's impressive. It shows all the layers that the music presents. And I also think that there's a little bit of a name, like the reason it's called in but are not off is because they're in death metal but not part of it, kind of feel to it. I don't know, but I feel that they caught to it, and what they're offering here is you put this on, the music is amazing.
Yeah,
Then the vocals come in, and
yeah.
it just makes you wonder about, wow, I did not expect that to be there.
Mm,
And then it grows with you, whether you had a knee-jerk reaction to it or not, because like I said, I'm not that familiar with death metal, so that kind of grindcore, like I guess very very brutal death metal, very low growls, I wasn't familiar with. But I don't hear anyone else doing no other singer would sing on this at the end
yeah,
of the album. They also switch it up halfway through the album. It's a different album
yeah,
altogether, and instead of being riff based, and they go into like these crazy soundscapes that are just huge and big and wide, and post metal stuff and post rock stuff, and you never expect that voice, that style, and being grindcore or death metal or whatever have that sort of sensibility to it. To me, it was eye-opening experience. I enjoyed it, and then I learned that it was all recorded live off the floor,
mm,
and
interesting.
that is so impressive to me because sonically I think this is the one album I feel the production is the best of the whole year, and they've recorded it off the floor. to me, it's incredible. It's just jaw dropping. It's I was awestruck learning that, and I just liked the album even more then.
Maybe you have more insight that we do because I didn't know about that. But I think that you and I have a similar read on this album title. Um, yes, they are in the death metal niche, but not off the game of being relevant these days, or vice versa. They are in in fashion, but not off their origins. I don't know about that, but yeah, this is a huge release for me. First of all, you have to understand, and this is for people listening this, Afterbirth pretty much cemented the idea of being brutal, or what later will have come to know as slamming death metal, with this kind of vocal regurgitation. So they pretty much own this sound. Is their origin sound, and to come back all these years, well, not coming back, but to present themselves all these decades with a sound that again kind of is very innovative, in the use of cynic adjacent synthesizers. I just think it's something that is to be celebrated, you know especially in death metal, that unlike black metal, death metal is not very much open to new ideas if you go beyond the dissonant aspect of it. And also, what I like about this record is the color palette of it. Because
Mhm.
I perceive the red tonality on the album cover, as you mentioned, it's almost like two records after the second half, and it's like being flooded by great tonalities with these synthesizers. And again, if it makes sense for me, that's perfect. That's all of what I can ask for.
Yeah, I think it was an I didn't know anything about the history. As I said, I feel I'm extremely ignorant, but I'm being honest though. Like when I heard this, I knew it was something incredible, something out
Mm,
of the ordinary, something good.
mm,
Not knowing anything about the history, when I heard it, listened to it the whole way through, what I heard was something that's, I feel like this is original. I maybe there are others like this, but I feel that this is something extremely original, something new, a good new color palette. So I was right in feeling that, but that's how beautiful the music conveys it.
yeah,
Yeah.
well balanced and well presented, and the vocals are out of the ordinary. Yeah,
Yeah. So if you like two albums in one, this is the album to get.
right. Okay,
This
so
next album.
we are
Yeah.
going to the top three. Okay, this is huge. We are we are we are we are entering on the big ones for you.
I think all 10 were big ones for me. I didn't feel like the positioning was you know that yeah
Objective.
it's very I think it's very subjective, and I again, if some days I feel differently about this, but yeah, Obsidian Tide, the only thing I can say about this is that, first of all, another amazing, beautiful album cover,
Hmm.
one of the best of the years for sure. uh
Yeah.
they're three people, right? And they play around with the same, if we like, the Anchoret has things we play around with, so a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit more blackened, a little bit more opeth. They have the same palettes and the same styles, and I feel like we enjoy the same music the same way. So to me, listening to Obsidian Tide is to listen to things that I wish I would have written, different tracks that I would enjoy.
Mm.
And it was such a big shock for me. And I didn't know about Obsidian Tide. I know that they released an amazing previous record too, which I just started discovering. But I've listened to this album, and I knew it was something big for me because I listened to two songs and I couldn't continue. I had to start back and
Okay.
listen to those two songs again, start back, and then maybe listen to three, started
Mm.
again, listened to four, started again, and then I got to Halo Crusher, which is if you have that playlist, this song, Halo Crusher, has to be on that list of great songs of the year. And as a bonus, it has heavy metal flutes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was an automatic 10 on 10, of course.
It's funny that you mentioned the thing about this is something that you will have like to write or have composed, because for me, and I have to thank you for that, I almost passed on this album because I knew the name and I knew the past record, and this is better in all the right ways, in the experience of listening to it. It's flawless, perfect, and I think it's one of the most important releases if you are close or near to the prog sphere, because it's just perfect writing there. And I see why you appreciate that, because maybe your ego starts kicking in, and you wish that you have done that, right?
Yes, there's incredible musicianship, incredible music, and this is the music, this is the band I want to be part of, as a
Yeah.
musician. If I didn't have the Anchoret, I would be like very happy for the guys, but pissed off not to be part of this. But there, you do discover music like that.
Yeah.
You become. If I had an homage band, I would do it from these guys.
Mm.
It's I just feel like they have the same formula. They just do something different with it than what I enjoy, right? They
It
have a little
is,
bit of Steven Wilson, a little bit of Opeth, Porcupine Tree, heavy metal flutes, maybe a saxophone, and the musicianship and the way that they play, I think it's incredible. They're only three, so a drummer, a bassist, who
yeah.
I think growls and sings, and Oz on the guitars. Just one person sings and plays at the same time. I mean, I wish I was at that level of musicianship. You know,
You will get there. Patience, my friend.
yeah, we'll
Uh,
talk in 10 years, no problem. But I think they're great musicians, very humble people. I got to know them a little bit as well,
okay.
and to chat with them. And also another thing we can notice is that they don't have a label; they're self-released,
Yeah. Uh,
and to
uh,
have that quality of a release, songwriting, cover art, uh, you know, I think it's beautiful. I wish I could see them live one day. That's so yeah, they deserve their spot on the top three, 100%. As you can see, I'm excited talking about them.
as I was listening to this, yes, I saw the why you pick it uh in top three, but also it kind of ignited the itch for the next In Vain album, because I have been waiting for that for years. Did you hear the new song?
From Ingwe Malmsteen.
In Vain.
In vain.
Yeah. The Swedish band In Vain.
So can you write it down just so I'm
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
In vain band. Because I would check it out. Yeah, In Vain,
In
progressive death
Vain.
metal band from Norway. I'm not even gonna pronounce
Yeah, Norway. Okay, I was wrong about Sweden.
their music can be described as melodic extreme metal. I'm already sold. I'm not very hard, but
And
yeah, talk to me about In Vain.
okay, so 10 years ago they released the album that changed the game for them and for the landscape of that kind of music, and they incorporated saxophones. 10
Oh,
years ago, yes, saxophone was a thing from even since the 19th, but bands kind of forget about it. But then, In Vain show how to use them in prog black, like in the enslaved sound, but
yeah,
with them and saxophones. And then a couple of years later, enslaved started to use saxophone in their music. So something funny to think about. But yeah, In Vain is um, I have to accredit them with the use of saxophone 10 years ago in this kind of sound.
yeah. Even more than like Rivers of Nile. These
Well, yeah, because they did it first, and in a different way.
even before Shining.
Oh no, no, Shining, Shining
Yeah,
goes back from maybe when they started to play metal, 2009, in the Black Jazz album, right? Yeah, yeah, I know.
Of course.
A different monster, that band.
Actually, both Shining bands. I think there's a Black Jazz album, and then there's the Black Metal Shining that also I think uses a little bit of saxophone.
Oh,
More for
you was talking about the Shining Black Metal band. Okay.
yeah, the Norway one. They're both from Norway, I think. It's just confusion.
No, okay. Yeah, the other
But
one I think is from Sweden. That's the
yeah.
distinction there.
Anyway, as soon as there's saxophone, it's 10 on 10 for me. It's cheating. That's why I have so much saxophone in my music. But no, honestly, I using an instrument like heavy metal flute and still making it heavy metal and not the classical, I'm walking through a forest and jumping around flowers feeling to it. It's very hard to do because you're forcing an instrument to do something it's not usually attuned to, right? Yeah. So
So
yeah.
I interviewed you months ago, but I didn't ask you about the use of saxophone, and maybe if you can give some examples of the best use of it in heavy metal or string music.
Oh my God, in extreme music. Well, this year Sarmat did amazing, but I also owe a great debt of that great debt to Isan. Isan used it really
Okay, yeah,
incredibly well. So I mean that's like cheating. I think it's the same as the black jazz saxophonist, by the way. And the way that they use it for texture a lot, not just for melody. And that it's incredible. It's really nice to hear that you're using it as an incredible texture and not just a melodic item and not just improvisation as well. It's part of the DNA of the song. And I think I think I've said that with the ANCHORET interview. And if you're bringing in something new sonically, a new instrument, you need to make it part of the DNA of the whole identity of what the album is, because making things weird for the sake of making things weird and original is not
it can
the
only
right
take you
path.
so far,
It's not the right. Yeah, it's you can become a one trick pony. You can become just like with a you got to stay as far away from a gimmick as possible. So
Yeah, definitely.
I'm happy that there's so much saxophone used everywhere, because it's not a gimmick anymore. It's accepted. It's some people even look for it, but it's something that you hear, and the way that you use it is different than someone else. So you avoid that gimmicky aspect. And
Yeah,
it's for the ANCHORET, it's part of DNA. The flute, an Obsidian Tide, I know that they have massive flute solos, even on their previous album as well. And yeah, the way that they use it, the way that they approach the music, and they create the soundscape to support it all without sounding too much like Jethro Tull, too much like
yeah.
classical. I'm thinking of Nightwish with the flutes. Yeah, I think it's all the power to them. Really highly recommend this album. Check it out. Support Obsidian Tide. Support the guys. They're really amazing musicians. Very humble,
Yeah.
and they don't appear on enough top 10 lists, in my humble opinion.
Actually, since I listened to that record, is now included in our top prog of the year because it deserves the spot, definitely. And I have to say, for me, the best use of saxophone besides the ANCHORET this year, and another band is Fractal Universe from France.
Yeah,
Have you listened to them?
I haven't listened to them. I know the band though. Fractal Universe. I'll check it out.
Fractal Universe and this Greek band Aenon or Aenion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Indian. I've also seen that around. It has been a crazy year. I'm trying my best. But
Not from this year though, but one of the best examples of using of the saxophone. I have to
yeah, of
ask you though, before we continue to the second spot,
course.
are you open to the idea of using more wind instruments for the future if
Of
the necessity
course.
arrives?
Of course, I'm playing around with a lot of sonically different things, but it's to keep things interesting for myself and exploring items, because it has to be honest. You can't
Yeah,
just say I want to have a I don't know, a Indian tablas, for percussions, because I just like it's people, it's weird and it's out there, and I want to do it. It has to mean something. It has to be part of something. The reason saxophone was so heavily used in the ANCHORET is because I grew up listening to Crime of the Century, which is probably, that song itself is probably the reason, more than even Pink Floyd, for my use of saxophone and the love of the instrument. It's got a 2 minute long solo at the end of a song, and it's beautiful, it's big, grandiose, and it's stuck with me. Um, and that's why I wanted to give homage to it. And that
Yeah.
transformed a little bit more and more with each song. And I started incorporating a little bit more heavier tracks and finding ways of using saxophone to fit those tracks, because again, it's a great new texture. It has a little bit of something fresh for your ears, because even though it's used a lot more, it's still not used everywhere. And that was also the reason why I used flutes as well, because I wanted something of a fusion part with a jungle beat to it. So when I'm thinking of jungle, I'm thinking of the 1930s, 1940s music that has that, the Jim Carrey, the mask sound,
Mm-hmm.
when everyone goes crazy with the drums and the jungle beats, and the instruments used to play over it without playing notes. They just go crazy on, and just create sounds to create the animal sounds of the jungle. And I like that. I really like that. So that's why, the flute solo, the big flute solo on my album, on Unafraid, uh, I wanted to go that because it's just so crazy as a part. It went so many places with so many different things. I just said, you know what? This feels like a jungle. I just want a big jungle animal sound flute on it. And that's where the idea came
Mm.
to use it. So there was a specific sound I was looking for before incorporating it.
The idea kind
Next
of,
one. Yeah.
it was like an homage, and then the idea kind of reinforced himself, right?
Yeah, you start with an homage, flutes, Jethro Tull. Obviously, there's that prog aspect to it, but the next one, I'm gonna be trying to think, forward thinking without losing what the album is, and that means bringing back the saxophone, because it's part of the DNA of the album for sure. But also, what else can I explore? I'm a trumpet player in high school. I played for
Oh,
5 years, and I played even a little bit further that. So I always loved the trumpet, but it's very hard to mix um, in maybe extreme, more experimental metal. But then again, you can see it in Haken this year, and even Winterhorde had a big trumpet
right, right.
over blast beats, and that was cool. That was really nice.
That was a nice surprise for me,
It
honestly.
was a nice surprise. Yeah, very original, very exploitive, and it fits. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's healthy that a musician that is exploring stuff or new avenues, and since you have the experience of doing that in your first record, I think it's important to be open to add new elements uh, that maybe enhance or give the opportunity to find new inflections in your vocabulary. Correct? And
Yeah.
this is an argument that I have been made this year, because I think that the bands that I appreciate the most, or artists, at some point decided to mess a lot around with new elements in their sound that are not necessarily uh, what you call a logical evolution of them, or of their sound, but they ended up doing something entirely unique and evolved on their own. So
Yeah, I love that.
I'm looking forward to, honestly, to your second album.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the pressure is really on it. I know. It's incredible. It's gonna be a journey and a different one. I'm not the same person as I was. So we'll see. Whatever happens and the way that it's delivered, it's gonna be an honest one. You're gonna know a little bit more about myself and my friends, who are, my members, or
Yeah.
who will, you know, be on the album as well. And I'm also want to mention that we're staying the same crew. We got together. It started out as a project on my own, and I'm lucky enough to call everyone a friend now. So I enjoy making music with these people, knowing them better today.
Mm.
So the music is hopefully going to be better because we know each other more. So that's the hope. So I think we're ready to move on to album number 2.
Liturgy. Wow,
Yes. Have you had a chance to listen to this one?
of course, of
Of
course.
course. I've never this is I still have no idea what is going on or why it works or
Yeah.
how it works. I think that you know you go to a university class that studies a piece of art or a piece of a poem or whatever else it studies. You know, this album is that it's so deep. It's got so many layers to it, and I have absolutely no clue how it's going on. The one thing I can tell you is that the way that I feel the first time and the way that I felt every single time since I've listened to it is that I felt like I was it was a religious experience. It was an
Mm.
experience. It wasn't listening to music. It wasn't, listening to those like contrasts that I enjoy or uh listening to, oh, okay, I really enjoy the ebb and flow, the way that it flows. This was, I had no idea what's happening at any
Yeah.
moment in the song, and I'm just glad it exists because it's pushing boundaries. And a funny story is that I discovered this band and this style of music, of this like extreme black metal, because I was reviewed on a reviewed my album was reviewed basically with a couple of other ones, and this one stood out because it got compared to, we're not pushing the boundaries, we're kind of going for an homage, but if we're looking for something that pushes boundaries, this is the album. Liturgy 93696 would be the one. I looked at the cover art and I don't know what style of music that is at all. It could be vaporwave. It has, different fonts. It has, different colors. None of this works. I
Yeah.
and I listened to it and none of it works, but everything of it works and pushes the boundaries, and it's honestly like a it's an experience. It's like going to the mass. It's but you have to be ready for it, because that is one album I've tried sharing with friends, but it was maybe a little bit too intense. It
Mm. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm guessing you didn't recommend Sarmat also,
Yes,
maybe.
I would recommend Sarmat, but Sarmat has that like that same aspect to me as what's that band that uses
Im-
Fancy Faxath is another
Okay.
one.
Okay.
Sarmat, Fancy Faxath is an amazing band, but you can see that they're musicians, they're great musicians, and they showcase their skills in a way that it's really original. To me, those bands have the same effect as Seven Impale had on you.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it's, as a musician, I can kind of notice that and share it in that way to people that are musicians that are looking for to expand their knowledge. This is a wall of sound.
Mm.
This is like listening to Brian Eno to me. This is like atmospheric. It means something. It's meaningful. It uses, this is Bjork in extreme black metal form.
Ooh, I like
So
that. I like that.
it really is, and you can't say what Bjork is. That depends. So it's a piece of art. It really is a piece of art. It's a number 2, but it could be a number 1. But I've made this list based on the albums that I've listened to the most.
Wow.
So
I,
so
I'm
this is one.
I'm surprised that this is one of your most listened albums of the year because it's very draining, a very, very draining experience. I heard this record very much back when it was released because we did a review commentary again. Sorry if I repeat that very
No.
much because it happened. And well, this is one of those albums or sounds that if you don't listen to black metal or don't know black metal, this is what it sounds as like to you, all,
Yeah.
a wall of noise. But so when someone that is fan of this kind of music finds that experience is special in itself. I think this is beyond my comprehension, and I was obsessed. Like I was obsessed with Attentive Chat record. I did a lot of research on interviews and about this album and artists. I know Liturgy from before, but this is the big album for me. And I was trying to interview her, but I feel unworthy. You know, I I I I I wouldn't be able to sustain a conversation with her because actually she has like a blog YouTube channel where he she talks about, you know, the philosophy of her and this album, and she has hours and hours, and I did the hours, but I was clueless to the philosophy. You know, it exists in a bubble where I can be immersed, but then out of it is like, what happened, you know? So this is this kind of music that
Yeah.
you can exist, you can appreciate it, and be blown away by how uh, all these uh, things happened at once. It's very original, very unique, and maybe the most impressive feat is that it works, even though um, the logical explanation is that this is something that it shouldn't work, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, to me, it even goes beyond that. I feel like looking back, like on all the albums I've listened to and came back to, and I'm definitely going to listen to again. This album, I've listened to it and I haven't been the same since. It really
Mm,
does change you, and there are
mm,
certain acts that do that. There are certain albums that react this way on you.
mm,
Steven Wilson, Raven That Refused to Sing is definitely one. First time I heard Dark Side of the Moon or Wish You Were Here too. I don't remember which one I heard before, but um, you're not the same person again.
yeah.
And that album, to me, that's what it did. I didn't know that she had a blog with philosophy, but I even started saying that when you're going to university and you need to study a piece of art or philosophy,
Mm,
that's the album that you should do, because it works on so many different levels, and you can just you have a path to follow when you're listening to music, because you're trying to get grounded by the instrumentation or the vocals or the melodies or the drums or whatever, and you can follow every single one every
yeah,
single time you listen to, and it's a different path.
yeah.
But what's incredible is that there's a payoff, there's a release at the end of it. Like I
Yes,
said, I don't like dark for being dark. I don't like death metal that's dissonant or black metal that's dissonant without that touch of hope, like
right,
Miserere Luminous to me does.
right.
So, and I think that there's always a release at the end of it. Like all the elements that had no reason to exist combined at the end together to create that beautiful music. And it's just an experience that I wish everyone goes through even once. And you do it once, it'll change you in one way or another. Maybe you won't return to the album, but everyone should give a chance and listen to it and take the time to do it.
Um, One thing I have to mention though is that I would like that this kind of music exist with another production, you know, that can be more digestible or chewable, you know, because that, yes, maybe that contributes to the magic, you know, of
Yeah.
the mysterium of the music and how it's mixed. But I would like, honestly, I would like to listen to this kind of music with a cleaner sound, you know, just to see what happens. And I understand that this is her language of music, you know, her production values and that. But similar to this record, and maybe the the only other record that can top Liturgy of in a battle against is Victory. What's the name? Sorry, I'm blanking on the
Victory
name.
Over the Sun.
Victory Over the Sun. Yeah,
Yeah. And
because
that's the Victory Over the Sun is the record I listened to before Liturgy, and that was my liturgy before this album.
okay,
So it could have been either one of those, because I had the same awe-inspiring experience, but liturgy to me is closer to my mind, my feelings, my philosophy, I guess.
Mm,
Whatever I feel like. Victory Over the Sun to me is very brainy, it's very smart, it's very
yeah.
it's hard music to digest, and you can coming back to it a million times. But unfortunately, when I discovered liturgy, I haven't returned to Victory Over the Sun.
Okay.
That is why it's this one.
I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, because to a lot of friends, for example, Carlos of Canal de Amusia, he prefers liturgy over the sun, and he explains that it's about the challenge of it, what he enjoys the most. And what I enjoy about it is the language in which liturgy set the rules, microtonal, post blackish, with a lot of instrumental experimentation. I think that Victor Over the Sun, what she does is making sense out of it, making more commercial or
Yes,
digestible,
I
and
like that.
that's for me is the like the next step. Okay, do that, but make it more enjoyable. Okay. I mean, and this is a very superficial criticism, because I enjoy what liturgy does, just as she does it. But yeah, Victor Over the Sun, the language, the yeah, that's what I appreciate about it, and this kind of sound.
Yeah.
For example,
I really felt more when listening to liturgy, I felt more offended. It's,
mm,
it got that reaction to me. I got more offended. I listened to it and I got sad.
how
My
dare
mind was,
you?
yeah, it's like, what is this? Why is people talking about this? And it's just that experience of it's destroying who you are to rebuild something new.
Ooh, ooh,
And that's what black metal is all about. It's
yeah.
the act of destroying. That's why, you know, that's why all the black metal stuff happened in black metal history. But it's all about I being an iconoclast. That's the word. And
Mm,
this is, I'm wondering how more iconoclast you can get. The other album that really got me this like reaction is, and I'm not paid for this, but another album from Bulletip, Cosnateni,
all
which is
right.
a
I was
dissonant.
meant to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it scared me. I didn't know that music could sound so evil, and that was
Mm,
the whole point. But if I go back here and I add the number two, number two, number two, it'll be Victory Over the Sun, Casnateni. They
yeah.
all have that same uh, soul to me.
Mm. Okay, so I I want to recommend you another thing if you are into this kind of language of music, but I'm blanking on the name. But as I remember that, let me mention a record that you included in your honorific mentions, Amun, of Spectra and Obsess, algo así, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm glad that record exists. I'm glad I found it, because similar to liturgy, it's how dare you, almost 2 hours of music, but very experimental, but it makes sense. For me, it's like the sound of Between the Buried and Me being excited all over again for
Oh
me.
wow. Yeah, it's nice. I like that. Amun was a surprise. I just fell on it and I listened to it and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was as experimental. I just thought it was good music and well produced too. It had that aspect to it. But I kept listening to it but while doing work, and it never ended. And I'm like, is this another album that sounds the same? And that's where I thought it was 2 hours, and I just had this like huge respect to it because it's
Yeah,
a lot of work.
the commitment.
It's the commitment and it's the style, and but I haven't returned to it as often as I should
Mm.
have. So that is one of the reasons that it's a mention, but not here.
To be honest, Amun is gonna be high on our list of black metal this year, because I'm super glad this record exists, and sad that this is their goodbye album. So I linked you a recommendation is along the lines of liturgy and microtonal exploration. The band name is
Half
empty,
empty glass house.
half empty glass house, and the name is super long, but the scene is in the album title, you know?
Yeah, and I just absolutely love knowing you because I can enjoy all these recommendations, you know. So thank you very much for recommending me. You're my librarian picking up music for me, you know. I feel like I'm part of going to the blockbuster of, hey, do you have something to listen
Oh,
to? And you give me one.
thank you
So
for
thank you
saying
for
that.
doing that. Thank you
I
for
I
doing it.
I wish I have had the time to discuss it or just comment on it because it's a super challenge for me, you know. But if you can listen to it, enjoy it, I will be honored.
I will absolutely listen to it. So thank you very much.
What about going to the top one?
All
Your
right. So for something completely different,
yeah,
number yeah, my number one is Mohini Day by you know, it's not that's her first full length album, I think.
it,
Uh and
so
she's a yeah, go
this
ahead.
this is a debut album.
I think it's a debut album. I'm sure she probably played on 2,500 other artists and albums. So Mohini Day is someone I've discovered on YouTube. You know, you've probably even seen her bass skills. She's been playing music since professionally since she was 9 years old. Um, and This is the album I probably listen every day. I do my chores, I listen to Mohini Day on a loop.
Okay.
I work, I listen to Mohini Day. You know, I want background music, I want to listen to, I want to go to sleep. Any occasion was amazing for me to listen to Mohini Day. So, you know, just judging by the amount of time I listened to it and the amount of fun and enthusiasm this album got me. Honestly, there's not another album that even matches the amount of excitement I got listening to this one. So it
Wow.
fully deserves being number one. So for people who don't know, so Moyini Day is a bassist, and she released this prog fusion jazzy album, you know, very fusion, but that's the thing, you know. I really enjoy King Crimson music. I really enjoy fusion stuff, but often it sounds a lot like a jam, you know.
Mm,
And I'm not that much of a connoisseur, you know. I'm not that, I don't know all of those bands or all the artists or the jazz world at all, but I try to keep up. And this one is something that I will make a guarantee right here. If you put this on and you don't like it in the first 30 seconds, you can have your money back. But honestly, any song, 30 seconds, any song, you listen to it, it's going to create this huge reaction out of you.
yeah.
It's basically fusion music recorded as if it was a heavy metal band.
Mm,
The songs have no voice, no vocals, no lyrics, so that's a big thing. But they're made in a way where there is a chorus, there is a bridge, there is a way to enjoy and listening to the music. There are things and ebbs and flows and contrasts. There are, um, you know, it's got that fusion. It reminds me a lot of the Aristocrats with Godfrey
uh,
Govan,
yeah.
Marco Miniman, who are on the album, by the way. They play on a couple of tracks. There's also Bumblefoot that plays guitar on the first track. A couple of other really. It has a couple of other people that I'm probably gonna go check, not to sound like a fool, but it has some incredible people on this album, and it's great musicianship. It's a little bit of restraint, even though they can do more, they don't, because the song deserves it. It has fast songs, slow songs. It has the contrast in between all the things. It's got fun. It's got the tongue-in-cheek humor. Every song has a sexual innuendo. That's what
Yeah.
like Aristocrats a little bit. So if you enjoy Aristocrats, or you enjoy a little bit of fun in your life, uh sometimes in between listening to Victory Over the Sun and Liturgy. This is the greatest palate cleanser, and also such a powerful album to me. It's one I'm going to keep returning to push myself as a musician, to laugh, to share with friends, to put at a party.
Mm,
This album is the same way that Liturgy changed me as a person. This album will live with me for a little while. So
mm. Okay, so first of all, I'm the living proof of your statement. Within less than 30 seconds, I was like, ooh, doing faces and reactions to it. Um, so you mentioned no matter what the order is, Mohini Day is number one, right? In your picks. And I was about to discover this record for this conversation. But yesterday, I haven't listened to the record before. I'm guilty of that. But one end of the year list was shown to me by the algorithm. I can't remember the album site, the website, but one of the picks was Mohini Day, you know. And I remember, okay, but because this was the first time that I saw the cover also of Mohini Day. Okay, also it's a she, is and I click play on the songs, and within the first seconds of this, I was sold to it, because it has that vibe of just to enjoy complex music. And sometimes when you do complex music, you remove that of the equation, enjoy, have fun, is light, have something to like you mentioned, like a party. And well, yeah, this is the record that I didn't didn't think I listen to this year, but I'm glad I found it, and I have to thank you for that, because wow, actually I did a publication on Facebook thanking you, because well, my freaking horn was cut out, and just glad that I hear this record. I don't have much to say, only that please go and play this record, because there's a lot going on.
yeah, and to be fair, we're two musicians in a world that has nothing to do with this one, and I don't have the vocabulary to talk about this or how good it
Right.
is. It's fusion, and I've got a little bit of fusion inspirations left and right, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just enjoying things, and everything's new, and I'm learning things. And talking about Mohini Day, just talking about that album makes me happy. We just talked about Liturgy and how important it was, and look at the contrast that I happened.
Right, right.
I'm just happy that this album exists. You can't even buy it. I think she just released this on Bandcamp. I don't even know if there's a label. I don't think so, but released it without any there's no physical formats either, so that's that's unfortunate. I would buy for sure, but it's just a world-class musician. This is someone that is offering me at this point in life an entry to a whole new world. So if I go listen to her music and I enjoy it, I go and discover who are the guests, who plays
Mm,
saxophone on this album.
mm,
And you can see names like Marco Miniman, obviously, Simon Phillips, also from Protocol 5, which I really enjoyed, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago, Fusion World. So it gives me like an in to go into this world. And I feel like, back in the day where people got vinyls and they didn't have the internet, they had to do their own research and discover things. This album gave me that urge to do it, that excitement about music, to go through it and discover new musicians. And and what's interesting also is that she's also a YouTube personality too, so she has she showcases bass skills, she goes over albums, and it's just a whole world to explore, and I'm just happy that I stumbled on it so I can start exploring it too. Yeah, and it released in August this year, I think. So I've discovered it a long time ago, almost couple of months after the ANCHORET was released, and I stumbled on it, and it stuck with me throughout the whole year.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually this is a vast record because of her. Lots of great things about that instrument that don't usually find in a lot of music. Yeah. You introduced me to two top top picks of our prog list this year. Mahini Day is definitely another addition to that, and I will be listening to that a lot more.
I'm glad I shared it, and I'm glad I we can agree to carve space for music that just makes us happy like this in a top
Yeah.
10 list with a lot more different artists, more metal stuff. So I'm glad we're open-minded like that. I mean, that's what you need. That's what you need to grow as a musician or as a fan of music.
So we made it to the end of the road of your top 10 picks. Thank you again for sharing it with us. I must ask you, how do you feel about the reception of the Anchorage this year and the amount of love and appreciation and this year-end list?
It's a big question, and honestly, it's there's I didn't expect anything like this, even remotely. I am surprised and humbled by the reception, and I always feel like I'm using those words, and I'm posting things, and I just say thank you to everyone because I'm just honestly on cloud nine. I'm still not sure how to react to all of this because it's completely unexpected. This wasn't um planned, or it wasn't the effort that I put into to the music was so that I can listen to the best music that I can do. It wasn't
Right.
because there was expectations. It wasn't to throw something out. I'm just glad that it arrived. I'm glad that people seem to react to it. And I'm humbled and so glad by the community that has been accepted it, because I said it earlier, it began loneliness, and now I'm surrounded by amazing, beautiful people like yourself and Yvonne and Lucy and everyone else uh that have been chatting with me and supporting me, and this we were discussing and talking about music, all things that I've never thought would happen at my age, at
Mm.
this level of my life. So it's a complete 180 from where I was. I'm not the same person anymore. You guys had the same effect as the Liturgy album on me. It's I'm not the same person that I was. Um, and all that because, I tried something. I wanted to give an homage to albums that I enjoyed, and people seem to really enjoy it too. And I honestly think that it's because the music itself, the words, the lyrics were honest. Um, so yeah, I feel like the world knows I feel like I owe so much to the world and to the universe, and I just you know can only say thank you because the reception has been huge beyond anything I can ever expect.
If I can add something to that,
Yeah.
you can see how we, the world, the fans of music, are craving or needing this kind of music because I mean it speaks for itself. When you put out something like this out into the world, the reception, is like a logical response to that. This album is, yes, honest, and again, very enthusiastic music and a love letter to prog. So I know that you go out and beyond prog, but there's something about the listeners of this kind of music that appreciate this kind of commitment to the craft, to the art of music. And I think this is the reason why the Anchoret is out there amongst the most relevant releases of the year. I know I am speaking for myself when I say that I will be remembered 2023 because of the Anchoret amongst only
Thank you.
many of this record that we talk about it in this conversation.
Yeah,
Not thank you to you, man.
it's tough to comprehend and talk about this and understand, because honestly, I mean, this year has been ridiculous, and everyone says that. I've been a little bit off the loop for a little while, but everyone says that this year, I mean, Steven Wilson released an album, Earthside released their album, Bork Nagar announced their album, Isan is going to come out soon. I mean, even in video games, GTA 6 released a trailer. I mean, the world is, to this year, to be even part of the conversation, where so many amazing acts like Enslaved and Steven Wilson and even Porcupine Tree, I think, was it last year or this year that they reunited and did a show. I mean, to be even part of a conversation, and that to me is mind-blowing, and thank you for the fans, thank you to you, and I'm just glad that I'm hoping that I'm hoping that the next one will be enjoyed as well. But my point right now, what I want to do is go out on the road and meet all the people that have supported us, to actually thank them and say and have a chat with them and see what they liked about it, and discuss the same way as you, but when in person.
So
hopefully one day. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that there are plans for future shows ahead?
Absolutely. There are plans. Keep your eyes peeled, 100%. There were no plans when I started this out. If I had plans to do this live, the show's live, I probably wouldn't have saxophone players or gospel singers or flute players, but we're here, so we're gonna try and make it happen. But next year, keep your eyes peeled. We're doing our best to bring the show on the road.
Well, hopefully there's also a future for the ANCHORET in Mexico, the Anchoas, a dearly nickname by us. And well, again, thank you for your time. This was a lot of fun, an interesting chat. I was a bit of anxious about coming in here because I don't speak English that well, but I'm glad we
You
did
were
it.
amazing. You were good. I was scared to come onto this show and talk to you because you're a music philosopher. You know everything about everyone. So
I'm
it's the
not.
same. It's the same. Well, your English was amazing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And well, I have to say, hope to see you in the future and a future interview about the next record. I know we, the Tumba, and our community will be eager. And you can see that also our community shares that appreciation of us for the ANCHORET. And we will try to remember them when the news come out about your second release and your newest songs. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alfonso, and all the best to you and all the best to everyone on the team. And if I don't chat to you again, happy holidays and have an awesome year.
You too, man. And the year hasn't ended, so you can expect a lot of inclusions and mentions this few last days of the year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad. I'm happy with that, and I'm glad you also enjoyed a couple of other releases here that I mentioned, and maybe they'll be on the top 10 lists as well.
How could I not? I have to say I'm curious about what Jamie from Airside is going to say about the ANCHORET, but I'm glad that he discovered it through me. It's my honor, So
you said that, and I haven't commented it because that is things that happen to the ANCHORET where it's a black hole in my mind because I just can't accept that stuff like this happens. So you talk to Jamie from Earthside, okay, that's it. It's a black hole. We move on. And you're bringing back. So honestly, well, thank you very much. And just being even mentioned in the same sentence as Earthside is incredible. It's they've done an album that's incredibly impressive, and the amount of effort and layers of the music and the vision that you have to create something so cinematographic. So it's high art, and it's Thank you. And I just don't know how to react, but thank you for, hopefully Jamie will like it. But if he doesn't, I just wanted to say thank you, Alfonso, for sharing that with him. I appreciate it.
And thank you for including Helga, because she needs loved. All
Helga
the
is
love
amazing.
she can get. Yeah.
Of course. Helga is an amazing artist, amazing album. Check it out. If you like liturgy but want something more, more calmer, listen to Helga. It's the other side of Bjork. It's the more poppy side of
Ooh.
Bjork,
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
keep going for forever.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. Have a good night, and again, appreciate taking the time to talk with me, sit, and to share your thoughts and your appreciation to all of our community, and anyone out of our community. Please consider following us. We try to spread the news, report, comment the new age of strict music, and interesting stuff happening, such as Eddie and the ANCHORET. See you soon, my friend.
See you soon. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.